Well, good morning, everyone. Sharon, thank you, and the TACTE board for allowing the department to come and present today. Just some updates. And as I believe David said earlier, there is a state board meeting this morning and actually happening at the same time. So there will be probably some policy updates today. We always want to remind everyone to sign up and subscribe to the SBE updates and to be aware of their agendas. And I know they're on the schedule for later today. So just a good day to be involved and aware and be together. So thank you for having us. And we're going to move through some updates from Ed Prep, and then also Jesse Gold is here with us to give some licensure updates. So let's see if we can move through. From the Ed Prep side, we'll be looking at some time looking at mentoring modules, and this will be shared by Aaron Glenn. We'll then move into the apprenticeship updates with Deanna Meyer, and then Lori Farley will present some items around literacy. And then, like I said, Jesse Gold will share licensure updates. Typically, I would share some pieces too, but while I have the mic, I'm just going to say very quickly a thank you to all of our state reviewers. If you are a state reviewer for Cape State Reviews or TNCR, the state reviews, just want to say thank you for the time that you give to that process as a peer reviewer. And if anyone is interested in serving as a state reviewer, you can always reach out to the Ed Prep email that you'll see at the end of this presentation. Just a quick plug for reviewers. All right, we're going to get started with Aaron.
All right, thank you, Alicia, and good morning to everyone. I see some familiar names, but for those of you that I have not yet met, my name is Erin Glenn, and I'm excited to share with you a bit of information surrounding a resource to aid your work with clinical mentors by way of an online mentor module. All right, to give you all some context and background for the mentor module, work began in fall of 2024 with the SLT team, specifically in the retention committee, to explore opportunities to really enhance and further develop the role of clinical mentorship, as it is a bit different across a student teacher placement, a job embedded pathway, or within a year-long internship. Ultimately, our work was rooted in recognition that high quality mentorship is directly connected to teacher retention and their long-term effectiveness in the field. Within our work, the retention committee conducted a review of mentor supports that are implemented in other states. And the design and the goal there was really to identify opportunities that could prompt our thinking and further consider what, as a state within Tennessee, we could adopt, transform, we could implement to further support the role of clinical mentors across all placements. Our overarching goal was to identify promising practices and to ultimately determine what might be adapted to strengthen Tennessee's approach. Through the collaboration and brainstorming, through narrowing our lens, the team developed content for an online mentor module that was designed to serve as an additional resource for clinical mentors. The module is intended to provide a practical tool to support mentors as they support preparation for teacher candidates across all placement types. The work and the outcome reflect broader overarching ideas of the committee to consider how mentorship and mentors' capacity can really further enhance and improve teacher retention. The mentor module is currently in its pilot phase as we prepare for broader statewide accessibility. Ultimately, as we all know, launching in a pilot format allows us an opportunity to really get feedback from the field, from users, from mentors, from Ed Prep leads to determine what tweaks, what adjustments, and what things could be adjusted before it's made broader and goes in a larger scale. Overall, the module contains 11 chapters total, and they are intended for a K-12 audience across all grade bands, across all subject areas or content fields. The content is intentionally specific to support the mentor's role and ultimately to ensure that they have a tool and a resource that can be adapted for their use and implementation as needed. To measure our overall impact, we have pre and post surveys that are designed to get the mentor's feedback and to assess their preparation for the role prior to using the module and to gain their takeaways and their thoughts after going through the module to see which resources are really most specific to their role. The tool will ultimately, we hope, will support the mentor's confidence in their preparation, understanding how their role will impact teacher candidates and how they will further support their effectiveness as well as the effectiveness of teacher candidates that they work with. Each chapter has a quiz at the end to reinforce key concepts and to encourage reflection before participants move and advance to the next chapter and the next topic of focus. The structure supports engagement and accountability without being overly burdensome. It is designed to be completed asynchronously. However, the chapters are adaptable if an ed prep lead wants to use them for a PD and to support training of mentors prior to their work in the field or throughout a placement for a teacher candidates. They can be adapted and used in a variety of ways. We are grateful that there were early adopters within the CEDAR team that agreed to launch the pilot phase. We're also excited that now that we have gotten further into the use to some updates that have already been made, it is now open for all EPPs. Willingness to engage early allowed us to test some of the functionality to gather a few key takeaways and a few things that we wanted to adjust prior to it going to a larger scale and before that larger statewide rollout. The collaboration and the teamwork for the early adopters has really strengthened the impact that the module will have as it supports mentorship and as they support their teacher candidates. We have a few incentives that are provided and available for mentors that are completing the module by way of a $50 gift card courtesy of CEDAR as a token of appreciation for their time and feedback. So that is not eligible for all mentors, but it is a drawing that those that participate in the module will be eligible to receive. And we give CEDAR a big thank you for that token of appreciation. Upon completion, mentors will also receive a generated certificate that documents their participation, which can be used to go into their PDP points. So we're excited for that connection that's made there as well. Together, we know those incentives, along with incentives of feeling more supported and prepared for their role, will ultimately further impact the role of clinical mentorship across teacher placements. As I said, the mentor module is now open to all. Those of you that are considering, if you have not yet had an opportunity to examine the module, to consider how you might be able to use it and implement it with clinical mentors, I encourage you to reach out to Karen ASAP. She's at Johnson University, and she is coordinating the outreach and how the feedback will be gathered and ultimately revised to ensure that the module is in its best state before it launches in broader scale. It's definitely still in the pilot phase, but we know that the more users that are providing input, feedback, and engagement, the better the outcome will be as we consider broader long-term sustainability and reach. So we are collecting all information from users, whether it be their demographics, the grade band they work with, the number of mentors that they support, so that we know that as we gather that information, it will be used, surveyed, assessed, and then implemented to refine what's in place now. Ultimately, the module adds one online resource to the mentor toolkit that we know it will be ever evolving and further expanded as work continues to support the role. And with that, I will turn it over to Deanna.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Erin. Good morning, everyone. Deanna Meyer. I know most of you have gotten a lot of FaceTime with a lot of you recently. Fair warning, Zoom has been giving some of us at the state some issues today where we just get kicked off randomly or we get different names. So I, at one point, was Erin Glenn, flattered that Zoom considered me Erin Glenn, but I am not her. So if anything happens and I disappear, I think Erin will pick up where I've left off. So glad to be here today. am really here to talk about educator apprenticeships and kind of what this looks like for the state and kind of what the plan is moving forward. So when we first started this work, when I say educator apprenticeships, you may think of Grow Your Own. That is historically what we have kind of touted as our bread and butter, if you will, of getting folks into the pipeline. But really, when we first started this work a number of years ago, we were responding to kind of two realities at once. Districts had really urgent vacancies. We think back 5, 6 years ago, what our world was going through at that point. We had some significant needs. And we also knew that Tennesseans needed more of a long-term, stable pipeline, not just something that was a pilot that was driven off of a grant and ended when the grant ended, really something that could live inside of our statewide ecosystem for educator pipeline. So we really kind of anchored our work with registered apprenticeship around three priorities, looking at pipeline sustainability, looking at how do we design with LEAs an experience and a program that aligns with their needs, and a prep model that actually blends more quality with an authentic experience. So, for instance, when we talk about sustainable pipelines, we aren't talking about simply filling next year's vacancies. We're talking about creating a sustainable workforce and structures that allows districts to build talent from within year after year. So you'll see on the screen the three priorities that really pushed us towards apprenticeship as the structure that we have currently in pushing us to doing all three at scale. So this is not just a program. It really did start as that, but really developed into a statewide strategy where we really wanted to focus in on highlighting some areas where we had some significant need. And one of the things I want to stress across the state as we talk about registered teacher apprenticeship pathways is the registered apprenticeship pathways are not a clinical add-on placement. They're pathways into the profession. They're built around and within guardrails to provide structure to individuals who want to move into the educator field. So we really are looking as we kind of dive a bit deeper into the space of apprenticeship of how we can build in additional coaching, additional guardrails, and more workforce supports that really go beyond traditional models and provide individuals with additional wraparound supports that maybe more traditional models don't always provide. So you can kind of think of this as Grow Your Own 2.0. The first wave of Grow Your Own work really taught us what districts want. They want more local talent. They want to anticipate needs as they come up. They want reduced hiring uncertainty. And they want models that really honor the fact that there are adults entering the profession that have very complicated lives and are at a variety of different stages of life. So apprenticeships really, the goal is to take that foundation and strengthen it. So one of the things that you'll see on the screen is some of the more explicit strengths of apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is really about flexibility. That does not mean inconsistency. So flexibility is what lets an LEA meet its need instead of conforming to a structure built in someone else's context. So you'll hear this next year as we really lean into diving deeper with apprenticeships about working with our LEA partners to navigate the needs that they have before we build programs and then fit them into that structure. Additionally, with apprenticeship, financial stability is not only a design goal, it's a requirement that we have from USDOL and the Tennessee Department of Labor Workforce Development. That looks like braiding funds and adding additional grants and additional supports that go beyond just one-time funds. It's intended to be a full, broad experience. We've seen a number of paraprofessionals who've been in the classrooms for 10 plus years finally be able to transition into a teaching role because of apprenticeship, because of the programs you all have, your EPPs. And we really value creating a doable and an affordable pathway into the profession. And for those of you who are not familiar with registered teacher apprenticeship programs, you'll see on the screen, these are kind of our key stakeholders who make registered apprenticeship a success. One thing I want to highlight is our role as sponsor. So this last year, we really have been working to establish our role again as sponsor. Part of that is ensuring, one, that we're meeting the expectations set forth by the U.S. Department of Labor as part of our registration with them. And additionally, that's meant removing the intermediary from the funding aspect of registered teacher apprenticeship program. So if you're not familiar, we do have a $5 million recurring allocation from the governor's budget for registered teacher apprenticeship work. And previously, our intermediary held kind of the basket of those funds and navigated that with our partners. We've taken all of that back just for ease of you all and for ease of ourselves, the processes that we have to go through. So know that that is something that has changed. One thing I want to highlight with the key stakeholders you'll see on your screen is that apprenticeships only work when everyone, one, knows their lane, and we all work in the same rhythm. So we've been really working on tightening our role this past year as sponsor to ensure we allow freedom for our EPPs and our LEAs to drive their own relationships, to develop additional pathways for apprenticeship as they see fit. So I know I mentioned our intermediary. This is also kind of where our partner with our intermediary has changed. Some of you may know our previous intermediary was the Grow Your Own Center hosted at the UT system. Given the evolving landscape of needs in Tennessee and through the commissioner's expanded vision, we have a new intermediary we're partnering with to help us really drive the vision in a much wider direction. So we're grateful for the work that was established with our previous intermediary that's led us to even needing to expand our work. But wanted to give you at least some insight that we are really aiming to have our new intermediary focus on supporting you all and our LEAs with driving more innovation and meeting the needs that exist in the local context. So our newer intermediary partners are the National Center for Grow Your Own. So not to be confused, we had the Grow Your Own Center, now we have the National Center for Grow Your Own, but they are working alongside us to help us really stand up this work and help the program evolve even more. I will tell you with our restructuring a bit and our more established role as sponsorship, our goal is not to burden EPPs or LEAs. Our goal is to build structure so that everyone has the guidance that they need to build programs that they need, but enough flexibility that your partnerships can shine through and you don't feel boxed in. Of course, there are absolutely things that we have to do. I know a number of you have heard from Erin on a regular basis about collecting 671 forms and competencies. Those are things we have to do as part of our requirements with USDOL, but we really are working to strip back the nuances of our relationship to allow you all to blossom, if you will. And give you a kind of a snapshot of where we are. These numbers are really just to show you momentum. They're not to show you final outcomes. We've been to a number of apprenticeship conferences this year and last, and we are one of the states that has the highest number of apprentices who are both completers and active participants. It excites us, but it also allows us for some opportunities to pause and say, what can we do better? How can we lean in more to quality? So I will tell you one thing that we're excited about is the combination of both reach and diversity in urban, rural, and suburban settings. LEAs are using this model and learning in real time what more strong implementation may require. So as we continue scaling this program, the message you'll hear from myself, from Erin, from others, is that the growth and the speed only counts if the quality is there. And so again, this is just to show momentum. These are not endpoints. This is about opportunity with growth. You all who have been a part of this program for a number of years have helped lead the charge. And so now we are really looking to lean into more quality. So you'll see on the screen, these are our active RTAP employers. So for apprenticeship purposes, employers are those who employ our apprentices. For us, those are our LEAs. So you'll see on the screen the map of where our current employers are. For those of you who've been part of our discussions in the last few weeks, you know I've made mention of some EPP deserts or LEA deserts that we have in the state. I'm glad and happy that we have so much red on the screen, but there is still some significant need, namely out west and up in the upper Cumberland area. We have some need where we have um, uh, individuals who don't have access to an apprenticeship program. Now, that does not mean they don't have access to an ed prep program, but this is one model that may serve those who live in that area. So wanted to highlight that if you are thinking about joining our registered apprenticeship program, I want you to see the need that we have. Again, I mentioned looking at some opportunity to dive in more quality. Some of that may also mean looking at LEAs you've not previously partnered with and trying to figure out how we fit this program into the local context. Apprenticeship is not and can never be a scholarship program. It's a workforce model intended to respond to the local needs that exist for districts. Then I think this is maybe my last slide, but wanted to give you some insights of what can you do next. I will tell you, we will be having our RFA for funding dropping hopefully in the next month or so. It is with procurement currently, but wanted to give you some practical tips that you can take back to your team to say, hey, this is what we need to do. We're going to encourage you to meet with LEAs who you're currently partnered with or who you want to partner with. If you have no idea who somebody is to contact at a district, but you know, hey, we want to be in West Tennessee with the program we have, let myself or Aaron know. We can get you connected with individuals. So when you meet with LEAs, lead with curiosity, ask questions about what do you need right now? What is your 3-year goal? How is our program serving you? I trust that you all are already doing that. This is just an added call to continue doing that. It is something that we are looking at diving deeper in is understanding partnership benefits. Apprenticeship should be mutually beneficial. EPPs should see an increased enrollment and stronger completion outcomes, which is what you want. And then LEAs should gain more predictable staffing pipelines. So again, we're not, this term is nuanced, but we're not bleeding out in the same way that we were 5 years ago. We don't have as much vacancy need as we did previously. So know that those conversations may look a little bit different kind of based on the need that exists. So I know some of you have probably heard about the Teach Ready TN initiative. That is something we're rolling out full-fledged. We've got a website now, so we're official. But apprenticeship is just one part of the Teach Ready TN initiative. It's really designed to be a full encompassing workforce strategy, including recruitment, preparation, retention, mentoring, all the things that we've talked about this morning. So wanted to give you at least some food for thought and some things to take away as you look into what the next few months look like. If you do decide to apply for registered teacher apprenticeship funding, we're happy to come alongside you and answer any questions you have about joining the program or what the nuances may be that we have and expectations we have for you all. So I think with that, I get to pass it over to my friend Lori.
All right. Thank you so much, Deanna and Aaron. Just always great information about the work you guys are doing. It's exciting to hear. And again, I'm Lori Farley. I'm the EPP Literacy Manager, and it is always a pleasure to be in the same space with all of you. And I won't take too much time today, and it just reviewing the things you've already seen. So what does our 2025-2026 literacy review look like? Do some high-level overview of that. And then also just focus in on the many professional development and collaborative opportunities surrounding literacy that are available to EPPs. So, anytime I talk about this work, I'm always going to ground us back into the Tennessee Literacy Success Act because this is the key policy driver for literacy instruction in Tennessee. And the ultimate goal of this act is to ensure that all students are grade level proficiency by the end of third grade. And one of the things that I do really like about this act is that it really works to engage so many stakeholders with the students, families, teachers, districts, and institutions of higher education for the same goal of ensuring that there is strong foundational literacy instruction throughout our state at all levels. And so there is a leg of that TLSA for EPPs. Part of that is that instruction focused on the foundational literacy standards is required, but also part of this act comes the requirement of an annual literacy review. And part of that annual literacy review requires that EPPs submit evidence demonstrating that coursework and clinical practices are aligned to all applicable foundational literacy skills standards. And that leads us to our 2025-2026 literacy review plan components. And as you'll see on this slide, all components have remained unchanged. So we still have our step 1, which is our matrices, which is the map of alignment. Step 2, the syllabi, which is our artifacts of alignment. And then, of course, the narrative, which is the story of alignment. And I will say that each year we take feedback from the literacy review process, as well as insights that we learn each year through the literacy review process to add some minor refinements to each section. So any revision or update that will be included within the newest review cycle will be embedded into all of these supports added here. And so we've got a lot of supports. That first one is the annual literacy review document. And this is really used to capture that step-by-step overview of the literacy review process. And within that document, you're going to see the rubric and rating scales. And so make sure that you look through that thoroughly to ensure that you know what the literacy review encompasses. I always call that an at-a-glance document. The second document that gets more in the weeds and more support is the literacy review guidance document. Again, any changes will be reflected in this document as well. And what I love about this document, it's far more detailed and it really provides resources that EPPs can use to facilitate conversation and collaboration, really look at that standards alignment and further details on how to complete the literacy review process. Also embedded within this document are external resources that can help as well. So make sure you comb through that. I'm sure many of you have already looked at these documents, but just wanted to remind you that they are available. Something else that is in our supports that will reflect changes is the webinar that we sent out this year. We sent that as a recorded piece, as a little something different so that you could watch it on your own time, and the slide deck. And then, of course, the Tennessee Atlas User Guide is always a helpful resource when trying to navigate how to use that site. So when any questions arise, refer to those. They have been sent out from our Educator Prep inbox, but they've also, all resources on this page have also been included in our January and February newsletter. So if it's been some time since you've seen them and you want to go back to them, check out our newest EPP newsletter and you'll see those resources. Of course, you can always reach out directly to me. So one thing we layered in this year were some support hours to address any additional questions or any technical troubleshooting that you may need. We've had 2 already, and those who came to that, thank you so much. You had some great questions that really led us to clarify more deeply the expectations. So we always appreciate your attendance to those. We have 1 more left, March 4th. So if you're able to join us, please pop in. We're happy to answer any questions or just see your smiling faces. We always love that. The next important literacy review date is April 30th is the deadline for those requirements to be submitted into TN Atlas. And then feedback will be sent back to EPPs on July 29th. So I want to wrap us up with my favorite part, which is all the collaborative literacy opportunities that we have available to us as a state. One that is not included on here because the registration has closed. With that said, it's the Acceleration for All virtual session that I think it was sent out last week in the from the Prep inbox. If you're sitting here thinking, wow, I meant to register for that, reach out to me and I'll give you a contact that should still be able to get you to be registered for next week's virtual Acceleration for All. And then the upcoming in-person Acceleration for All is at the end of April. Just as a reminder, Acceleration for All is an initiative that has been launched statewide to ensure that high quality Tier 1 instruction is available for all students based on their unique needs. And one thing that I think is so powerful about this initiative, and if you've been able to show up in person, or if you are able to show up in person, it's really a push through districts to get all key players on board. So it's not just your gen ed teachers, it's ELL teachers, special education teachers, bringing all the key players to the table to see how can cohesive Tier 1 instruction be provided for all. So if you've never been able to participate in A4A, I highly encourage you to participate in that one. The next two learning opportunities we have through our Early Literacy Network, which is a network that really is intended to bring Tennessee educators and Tennessee leaders together to support high quality foundational literacy skills instruction for all students. They have their next virtual at the early part of May and their last in person of the year at the end of May. Again, these are great resources when you think back to that slide of TLSA, of how it engages all stakeholders. It's the perfect opportunity for EPPs to engage with district leaders and district teachers and to really collaborate on practices. And I can say for every session I attend, I always walk away with so many resources that are resources that could be strong tools for coursework. And then last, our newest initiative, which I am loving, and I think you guys are as well, is the Early Literacy Network and Educator Preparation Provider Partnership. So our ELN EPP network. And this has been initiated for a statewide opportunity for EPPs to come together, to engage with each other, to share expertise, and anything that can really enrich that strong literacy instruction across Tennessee. So I would encourage you to join when you can, or send a representative from your EPP. I know your schedules are very, very busy. And the great thing about the virtual opportunities is they record those. So even I have had to miss a virtual opportunity, but I can go to Best for All Central. I can search for A4A, ELN, EPP, ELN, EPP, and all of those pages come up with the virtual resources or any resources that they have used. And don't forget our great resource that we have for the EPP ELA resource page. If you don't want to dig around for a lot of things, go to that resource page and you will find every literacy support network that is listed here from that site. So I just appreciate all the work that you guys are doing in the literacy space. I've really seen a lot of great things happening. And as always, if you need anything at all, email me. I'll send you a resource directly, or I'll put you in touch with someone who can answer your questions. So thank you so much. And I believe Jessie is next.
Thank you, Lori. I am here this morning to talk about all things educator licensure. So good morning. We actually have not a ton of updates on the licensure side, which is super exciting to all of us, but wanted to run through some things that we do have. And we're going to start with just a little bit of a 2025 licensure wrapped. Just always love sharing data and getting to brag a little bit about our licensure system. We are still the fastest licensure processing system in the country. So always a good time. So last year in 2025, we processed 38,191 transactions. So that is our team of about 6 analysts doing most of those, although sometimes Taylor likes to pop in when she has some downtime. So that is an impressive number. 96.6% of those were processed within 21 business days, but our average turnaround time was 4.75 days, and that's over the course of the entire year. So most of the time when it's not summer, we are processing within about a day. So we really appreciate obviously our team, but also all of you. And this is my moment to brag about your certification officers and how fantastic of a job they do with helping us out to make sure these transactions go smoothly. So moving on from that, we have some updates from SBE because they are meeting this morning. So the first thing is that on first read, we have licensure policy. It's a pretty small update to that one. Some of you may be familiar with the post-secondary educator license. It is a license type specifically for folks who have been teaching subjects at the higher ed and would like to move to high school, so 612. And so it provides a pathway for those folks who already have that higher education teaching experience to kind of move more smoothly into our secondary education workforce. And so those endorsements for the post-secondary educator license had been slightly off from our academic endorsements because they just hadn't been updated in a while. So that is what is going on first read, is just to make sure that those endorsements match each other and so that they provide smooth pathway. And then I think on final read, what people are probably most excited about is we are adding NES assessment options to almost all of our endorsement areas. So folks will now have the opportunity to either take a praxis assessment or an NES assessment. So it's just providing a lot more flexibility and options for our educators. And on the next slide, a few updates on that one. So timing on NES, as soon as the board approves it this morning, we can start accepting NES assessments. The Tennessee NES site will not go live until March 3rd, so early next week. But if you have any candidates who have already taken an NES assessment that is listed in the professional assessment policy, they are welcome to request that those scores be sent to us now. Obviously, prior to the Tennessee NES site being launched, those will not come to us automatically. But if for some reason you have a candidate who decided to go ahead and take an NES assessment, they are more than welcome to have those scores now requested to be sent to us, and they should come in through TN Compass. 4 score reports from NES, because we know this is always the most important piece of this. They mimic, so it's a Pearson assessment, so it mimics what we were all doing with EdTPA. So that's your full social security number. But what is almost more important, I think, when it comes to any Pearson assessment is that date of birth. When we see issues on the Pearson side, it's typically because someone has flipped some numbers in their date of birth, like the month and day are not right. And so it's really important for candidates to ensure that when they're signing up for their NES or Pearson account, that they're really making sure that their social security number and date of birth are accurate. And again, that's the same thing with the praxis assessments. If we have any variation in that, it would require resending the assessment, which of course would end up being an additional cost to the educator, and we really want to prevent that. And then finally, moving forward, I know there's some sessions this morning even to talk a little bit more about NES assessments. However, NES is also going to host their own intro orientation session for us, and we're kind of still working on the details of that, but it'll coincide with our spring licensure training series, which we are excited to announce, and we'll make sure that all of you also have all of the dates on that, because we have some fun things planned, including I think Deanna and maybe Erin are going to come and share a little bit more about Teach Ready, and we're going to get some other things going on. So we're excited about our spring licensure series and what that will also include an NES session. So that's sort of the quick and dirty on our new NES assessments, but very excited for the board to approve those. And then finally, this is just a slide that we've been starting to include in our presentations, because these are the things that we hear a lot about over and over again from as we're communicating with educators and all of that fun stuff. Hopefully, this is mostly review for all of you. The first and most important one is that educators are solely responsible for the issuance and maintenance of their educator licenses. So I know this comes up maybe a little bit less frequently with you all, but it's something that comes up for us a lot when folks let their licenses expire. They don't finish their educator preparation program before their job embedded program before their license expires, all of those things. We want to help, we want to support, but at the end of the day, it's a professional license. It's your responsibility. The other thing to note, especially when you all are talking to districts, love that we are continuing to encourage districts and you all to create those really close partnerships. That is the first piece of advice I give to any district coming to me for advice is go find an EPP to support you and talk to you about it. But it's important that we all know that emergency credentials are not licenses, and that they're temporary, they're time bound, and that our full and valid licenses are those that are continuously renewable. And then the bottom part here that also probably does not apply as closely to you all, is that there are some flexibilities when it comes to licenses. This may be helpful. I'm not going to go into great detail on this, but if you're not familiar with that, especially certification officers, it might be helpful to kind of dig into those flexibilities just a little bit because it does impact how you advise candidates when they are talking about adding endorsements, right? Do they need to add the endorsement? Is there flexibilities they can use? And all of those other fun things that go with that so that we do have some of those flexibilities. And then the last thing, sorry, just because I did see that Nicole left a comment in the chat that I will just go ahead. And the question was, does a completer in TN Compass mean licensure requirements or degree requirements? It's licensure requirements. So a completer in TN Compass is someone who has met all requirements for licensure, including assessments. So that is how it's defined in TN Compass. And for those out-of-state forms, for candidates seeking reciprocity, that is the same. We ask that there's language on that form that says that candidate has met all requirements for licensure in the state where that EPP is approved. So different states obviously have different requirements. And so we just ask that if someone is coming from out of state and completed an out-of-state EPP, that out-of-state EPP is confirming that whatever the requirements are, in that state that they have met them. And no worries, Nicole, I was totally at the end of my little presentation here. So that was perfect timing. But yeah, I know that was fast. You're probably used to me droning on a little bit longer, but we're just in a really good place with licensure. And again, just want to thank you all for your support in that. And I will turn it back over to Alicia to finish us up.
Thanks, Jesse. Thank you, Erin and Deanna. And we just want
yes, my name is Linda Sharp. I have some prescriptions to pick.
We would love to end with just a few reminders today. I just want to take just a moment to acknowledge the other team members on this call from the department team, Bianca Jefferson, Ron Blaylock, and Justin Barker. They are here today as well. And we're just very thankful to have the space and time to share with all the EPPs and with the TACTE board. Just a few reminders. So you heard often throughout this presentation, you can email me, or I'll send you resources. One of the best ways to communicate if you don't have or know where your question directly goes, you can always email either one of these email addresses on the screen. So we typically always end our presentations with the educator.preparation@tn.gov email address and also the educator.licensure email address. Both of those accounts are monitored, and then those are filtered out to the correct person that question would align with their workflow. So you can always default to those two email addresses, and we'll make sure to take care of that and get back with you quickly with an answer. The other piece I mentioned earlier at the beginning of our presentation, but is also we always want to encourage you to make sure you have subscribed to the EPP update. Both EPP or Ed Prep information and licensure information is included in this email. So Bianca is actually dropping into the chat right now the link to subscribe to the EPP update if you do not have that subscription already. I believe also there's a way to go back and look at previous distributions. And so one of the ways we are trying to use the update as well is questions that come up often that are cyclical or very routine questions that we get a lot. We're trying to include that information in each release of the update. So for example, discontinuation of programs comes up a lot as part of the comprehensive review process and just cleaning up programs. And that information is in the EPP update every time now. So just trying to utilize that communication resource to the best of our ability. And then the other piece I would say is the Educator Preparation Working Group. We have announced, I think last month in the EPP update, the new Educator Preparation Working Group members. Just for those of you that don't know, the working group is a mixture of LEA representatives and EPP representatives that come together quarterly with Ed Prep and licensure to really look at initiatives, to give feedback, and to have really robust conversation around our practice. And so if you know anyone on EPWG, you can stay connected with them as kind of an advocate for that conversation. And then the last thing is we'll share this PowerPoint with TACTE and make sure that they have this to distribute as they need to with other presentations.